Hello, I'm Connor Al4K. It's Sunday, the 8th of May. You're watching 6 News. Our top stories tonight. Anthony Albanese says he's open to a cabinet reshuffle if Labor wins the federal election, but adds that he thinks colleagues are worthy of their current roles, as Scott Morrison says he won't say if he'll resign in the event of a hung parliament. Plus, less than 2 weeks to go until Australians head to the polls with support for independents and minor party candidates going. But who will you be voting for? 6 News unveils a new viewer poll where you can have your say. And later,
I got hung up on by Josh Frydenberg. I'm happy to say that. He never offered me condolences for my son. Peter Dutton didn't do what he said he was going to do.
Exclusive. The mother who pushed for a royal commission into veteran suicide, Julianne Finney, explains why she's now running for the Senate in South Australia and slams the response she's received from the government. Good evening. Australia is now less than 14 days away from the May 21 federal election, which is shaping up to be a close contest that may not even be decided on the night. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says he won't say if he'll resign in the event of a hung parliament, while opposition leader Anthony Albanese has revealed he's open to a cabinet reshuffle if Labor wins the federal election, but adds that he thinks colleagues are worthy of their current roles. And now Labor has dumped an earlier promise to offer free rapid antigen tests to Aussies, saying times have changed. Political reporter Roman McKinnon begins our special coverage.
The countdown is on. It's the final fortnight before voters have their say on who will govern. Both leaders spent yesterday out and about meeting voters and pitching policies. Anthony Albanese was in chilly Launceston visiting a busy Mother's Day market. He announced that the Labor Party will back away from free rapid antigen tests. We spoke to Shadow Treasurer Jim Chalmers earlier this year.
But the position that we came to is entirely consistent with what we've been saying for some time. We want to provide those tests for free. That's the most responsible and fairest way to do it. It's good for people to receive those tests, but it's also good for the economy. And so that's why we came to that position. And I don't think it matters whether we take, that we took another day to come to that conclusion when it's entirely consistent with what we've been saying for a long time.
It was a quick stop to northern Tasmania, where the Labor leader held a rally promising to put more money into education and healthcare.
Friends, 2 weeks from now, Australia can choose a better future. The choice is clear and the choice is urgent. You will not need your wallet, just your Medicare card.
While blitzing Bass and Braddon, both marginal seats, in the audience was Labor's candidate for Lyons, Brian Mitchell. He's come under fire after comments from 2011 have resurfaced. One says the ALP would need a mop to clean up because women can't hold their bladders. Scott Morrison was in Western Australia on Saturday, promising $20 million towards wineries, breweries and distilleries, and a cash splash to boost the tourism industry.
Our tourism policy is about securing that recovery for our tourism industry.
He took aim at the Labor Party after reports emerged of budget deficits of up to $10 billion more than the coalition. Early voting kicks off tomorrow with a projection of 2 million people applying for a postal vote each day. The race is on as Mr. Morrison has his hopes high for a shot at another term in government. Roman McKinnon, 6 News.
The opposition leader has dismissed allegations that his party is just Liberal light. In an interview with 6 News, aired on Uncensored earlier this week, Anthony Albanese was asked about Labor's support for offshore processing, boat turnbacks and lack of commitment to increasing job seeker payments. But Mr Albanese says he can't understand why some would use the Liberal light label.
If you look at the agenda we're putting forward at this election, we're putting forward a plan to strengthen Medicare. We've got a plan for cheaper childcare. We have a plan to deal with the challenge of climate change, a comprehensive plan, the most comprehensive plan ever put forward at an election campaign, one that will see our energy grid on the national energy market be 82% renewables by 2030.
The full interview is available on the 6 News YouTube channel right now. The Australian Electoral Commission has responded after multiple images of unauthorised posters featuring teal independence and the logo of the Greens emerged online. Some candidates have labelled it a mass coordinated attack, with one group that some speculated was behind it, now telling 6 News it wasn't them. And now one former Prime Minister has encouraged Liberal supporters, unhappy with the party's direction, to vote for an independent. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has more.
With the rise of teal independence in a number of Liberal-held seats this election, there was bound to be some backlash. But for some, nothing was expected like this. In what's being called a mass attack, a number of independent candidates, as well as MP Zali Steggall, reported images of unauthorised posters featuring their name and images. The posters appear to be edited versions of real posters, with the authorisation on the original covered up and the feature logo of the Greens. The AEC says they're taking this extremely seriously and have asked anyone with any information on the posters to come forward. It comes after John Howard doubled down on his attack on the independents last month.
They're not independents. They're anti-Liberal groupies.
Speaking to the Daily Telegraph, the former Prime Minister warned that the grumpy Liberal defectors could destroy the party. He claimed they weren't real independents because they weren't running in strong Labor seats. But another former Liberal PM has a different view.
Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has called on Australians to back independent candidates at the election, a move likely to anger his former Liberal colleagues.
Malcolm Turnbull saying unhappy Liberal voters are voting with their feet to support the teal independents because the influence of the party's moderate wing at a federal level was getting less and less. And his comments didn't go down well with some.
And I'd say to Mr Turnbull, have a little bit more consideration and do something statesmanlike and say, whatever you do, we're all going to have to make a sacrifice. We're not going to get everything we want, but we've got to do it. When you vote for yourself, but vote for your nation as well.
I don't share his view. What my view is I've just explained to you, and that is the chaos of a parliament driven by the daily musings of independents who haven't had the experience to deal with the serious security and economic challenges our country faces.
Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
And with more and more people saying they'll be backing a minor party or independent candidate this election, 6 News is proud to announce a new viewer poll just about that. Instead of 2-party preferred, we'll be bringing you more options, including the Greens, the UAP, One Nation, the New Liberals and others. Plus, you'll have the ability to even add another option if the ones we listed aren't your cup of tea. Preferences matter too, and that's why we also want to know who you'll be putting last on your House of Representatives ballot. There's no doubt the leaders are also a deciding factor in who people vote for, and while we will ask whether you prefer Scott Morrison or Anthony Albanese, we'll also have the option to say neither, and even let you list someone else you'd prefer in the top job. And finally, we want to hear your election predictions, not necessarily who you want to win, but who you think will win. You can find this poll by heading to our website, 6newsau.com. It will close Friday night, and we'll reveal the results next Sunday night. We also want to make it clear that results are completely anonymous. The mother who pushed for a royal commission into veteran suicide has spoken out about the treatment she received from the government as she runs for the Senate in South Australia. Julianne Finney's son, David, took his own life in 2019 after a 2-decade career with the Navy. Now she's speaking out, saying a number of Liberal members didn't do what they said they were going to do, and that Josh Frydenberg hung up on her and never offered her condolences. Chief anchor Leonardo Puglisi spoke to her and has these exclusive details.
Julianne Finney, the mother who relentlessly led a push for a royal commission into veteran suicide, has spoken exclusively to 6 News about why she's running and the response she's had from the federal government. Ms Finney is now running as a Senate candidate in South Australia for the local party and spoke to 6 News' Spin Check about who her party is and why she's running.
The local party, Leo, formed to support independents that want to run for Parliament, and they have a constitution, but there's no party line that I have to follow, which was great because there's things I agree with and things that I disagree with. So they got in touch with me and I absolutely jumped at the chance.
But Ms Finney also spoke to 6 News about the response she had from the federal government when leading the push, including from Prime Minister Scott Morrison and Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg. She claims Frydenberg hung up on her.
I'll be honest with the Prime Minister. When I did confront him with the fact that I didn't believe what he was doing, he basically ended our conversation with, well, I am the Prime Minister, Julianne. So I got hung up on by Josh Frydenberg. I'm happy to say that. He never offered me condolences for my son. Peter Dutton didn't do what he said he was going to do. On the other hand, I went to a press conference that Anthony Albanese did, and when a journalist asked a question that I didn't like, I kind of needed to speak up, and Anthony pulled me in and let me take over the press conference.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, this will do nothing. It won't give you any reporting. If you want reporting, go to the parents. We need a royal commission. That is the only thing that is going to look at this in depth. If you want to look at future suicides with a national commissioner, we need to stop them, not look at them. We don't want to look at future suicides. They should not be happening. This is nothing. It does nothing for anyone.
The interview was conducted as part of a new Spin Check special on a number of Senate candidates. 6 News also spoke to the new Liberal Steve Keen, the Australian Democrat Steve Beattie, the Liberal Democrats David Limbrick, and Drew Pavlou from the Drew Pavlou Democratic Alliance. You can see the full episode of Spin Check on our YouTube channel, search 6 News AU to find it, or head to our website 6newsau.com/spincheck. And of course, if you or anyone you know needs help, Lifeline is available at 13 11 14 or online at lifeline.org.au.
Overseas now, the Conservatives have lost almost 500 seats in local elections in what Boris Johnson has called a tough night. The party suffered significant losses, particularly in the south of England, where Labour and the Liberal Democrats gained seats. Meanwhile, the Green Party has hailed what it called phenomenal results, with The Guardian reporting it saw at least 80 gains. The United Nations World Food Programme has called for ports in the southern Ukrainian city of Odessa to be reopened to help rein in the global hunger crisis amid the ongoing war with Russia. The conflict has seen a number of ports blocked, but WFP Executive Director David Beasley says if they don't reopen, mountains of grain will go to waste. The statement also said that we have to open up these ports so that food can move in and out of Ukraine. The world demands it because hundreds of millions of people globally depend on these supplies, according to CNN. Back home, there are a number of significant electorates right across the country that both leaders will be busy campaigning in an attempt to either regain or obtain government. Both major parties currently hold a number of seats held by tiny margins, ones that could end up deciding this election. Political reporter Roman Mackinnon takes a look at just a few of these.
We're going to start in Queensland, the seat of Longman, which is held by Liberal MP Terry Young. It stretches throughout the Moreton Bay, Somerset and Sunshine Coast councils and holds a margin of 3.3%. Terry Young was drawn last while his Labor opponent, Rebecca Fanning, drew in the first spot. Also in Queensland, the seat of Lily is the state's most marginal seat. It is held by Labor's Anika Wells. It is held by the ALP, of course, on a razor-thin 0.6%. She was drawn second last behind Daniel Freshwater for the Liberal Democrats. Moving to New South Wales now, we're going to look at Eden Monaro. It is currently held by Labor MP Christy McBain on a margin of just 0.9%. She is third on the ballot, with Liberal Jerry Nockels placed 6th and Democrat Greg Butler 4th. We have touched on Warringah's ballot draw earlier, but Zali Steggall gained this seat in 2019 from Tony Abbott, of course. It lies on a very safe margin of 7.2%, of course. That is to independent Zali Steggall. Moving to Macquarie now, that is an ultra marginal seat, if we could even call it that. It's Labor's most marginal seat at a feather-thin 0.2%. Current MP Susan Templeman was ranked 2nd out of 8 behind One Nation's Tony Pettit, if I'm saying it right. Moving south to Tasmania, rather, the only 2 seats here are marginal. That's Bass and Braddon. Bass is held by the Coalition on another very tight margin of 0.4%. That's Bridget Archer, who is the MP, and she is the 4th on the ballot paper, with Labor's Ross Hart last. Moving to Braddon now, which covers about 60% of Tasmania. It isn't a huge marginal seat, but would be a great addition for the Coalition to retain in Tasmania, and it has a margin of just 3.1%. Braddon is held by Gavin Pearce, who is sitting 3rd on the ballot. Next week, we'll bring you all of the information in Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, as well as breaking down different candidates.
Roman McKinnon reporting there. And now here's Ivan and Melly with a look at what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Connor. Tonight on WAMN News, Premier Mark McGowan faces criticism for mishandling WA's crime wave as police voiced frustration over the issue. A WAMN News exclusive.
Female football players threatened to protest after 2 football teams were prevented from joining other leagues following the competition's collapse.
Here's no Mark McGowan, Prime Minister Scott Morrison's attack on the opposition leader Anthony Albanese.
Peter Kennedy's assessment of independent candidates' agendas, plus Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Alright, thanks to both Ivan and Melly there. Now let's head over to our very own senior reporter Darby Travers, who's in Bendigo with tomorrow's weather forecast.
Good evening, Connor, and good evening to everyone at home as well from up here in Victoria's Goldfields. We are here tonight in Bendigo, the Bendigo City Centre. I gotta say, if you are a fan of the great Elvis Presley, get on up here. An exclusive exhibition direct from Graceland is showing at the Bendigo Art Gallery for a strictly limited time. It showcases, well, some of the many artifacts from the King of rock and roll. I went yesterday and gotta say, unbelievable stuff. Definitely get up here and check it out. It will leave you all shook up as we check in with tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country, starting in Brisbane, expecting 20 degrees, chance of some rain, showers also in Sydney, 18 degrees there, 17 in the nation's capital Canberra, 17 as well in Melbourne, starting the day at just 5 degrees. That is cold. It's cold here as well. 16 down in Hobart, 19 in Adelaide, getting to 20 in Alice Springs. A nice one on the way for our friends in Perth, 24 there, and in Darwin warming up at top of 34. So there you have it, Connor, tomorrow's weather forecast. A big happy Mother's Day to all the mums as well. For now though, from Bendigo, let's throw it back to you in the studio.
Alright, thanks to Darby Travers for that, and happy Mother's Day as well. Happy Mother's Day to my mother and grandmother. Before we go tonight, recapping our top stories. Anthony Albanese says he's open to a cabinet reshuffle if Labor wins the federal election, while Scott Morrison says he won't say if he'll resign in the event of a hung parliament. As 6 News unveils a new viewer poll where you can have your say less than 2 weeks out from Election Day. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest headlines and vote in that poll by heading to our website 6newsau.com and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok and Lit. Just search 6 News AU to find us. Leo will be back next week. For now though, I'm Connor Alforque. Thanks for your company. Good night.